All right, guys. So this is gonna be the first day after Leafs playoff recap. So this is recap after game one, like I said. That was a real tough loss to handle. It's been close to 24 hours and it's still leaving a sour taste in my mouth. I think I could speak for you, Cristian, as well, and it's leaving a real sour taste across Leaf Nation. It's like you can't even escape it. You go anywhere. I was
No,
on CP24. It was wherever you were today. It was like that's all you saw, right? Um, I think we could just jump right into it. If you got our reactions, mine especially last night, thank God, Cristian, that we
yeah.
slept on this one because this
Would have
video
been a
might
totally
have.
different video.
Oh
Totally
yeah.
different.
Well, we
Yeah.
also did get some big news right off the jump, but
Yes.
I guess what I'll say is that this video would be completely different. We might not be like monetized on YouTube or wherever. that that spiraled so quickly that game. So I guess we'll work from the front, from the most recent news, and then work our way back and digest the game, right?
Sounds good.
So Michael Bunting, talk of the town today, one of the two talks of the town today, alongside the head referee Wes McCauley. So he has been suspended. This is confirmed by Chris Johnson, Elliot Friedman, whatever insider you want to see. The player, NHL player safety, has gone on record to say that he has been suspended for the next 3 games. So he will miss games 2, 3, and 4, and should be set to return the next time Toronto comes back home, right? So Cristian, I guess like what are your thoughts on that suspension, dude?
All right. So honestly, when I first saw the hit live, I was able to convince myself. I was like, okay, listen, that's definitely 5 minute misconduct, head contact, illegal timing, illegal hit to the head. All good, all good. I was trying to convince myself. I'm like, listen, there was bad timing in that hit itself. Chernak was definitely leaning to go into the corner to try and retrieve the puck. It was a race, but by no means was he expecting that hit. I was like, okay, they're gonna look at that and they're gonna say, the time it wasn't really malicious. Throw it all out the window. I woke up the next morning. I watched the replay again. I'm like, Bunting is absolutely getting suspended. It was just a matter of how many games. Three is one more than I expected. I was expecting two. I felt pretty confident that we were going to get two, just considering that Bunting doesn't have a suspension history. Um, and yeah, those are my initial thoughts. I definitely want to get into Bunting stuff a little bit more. But that's my initial reaction to just hearing the news right now. 3 games for Bunting. I think it's 1 game more than I expected. How about you, Dave?
Okay, so I think, man, I'm gonna sound real biased here. Stop me if I'm too biased, guys. But I think if that's another team, that's probably only a 1 game suspension. If Matt Dumba did that exact same thing to Joe Pavelski the other night, which he wasn't disciplined for, and you know what, I was kind of in agreement with it. It was a sort of dangerous hit, but I don't think it was enough to warrant a suspension. I think if he does something along those lines, we maybe only see a 1 game suspension. Now, my reasoning for this would be you can kind of surmise that playoff games are important. How important would you say that one playoff game would be? I think the estimate would probably be roughly around 2 regular season games. If you want to even be like a little bit more lenient, I guess you could also say maybe 3, but I think 2 is a fair number. So I would say for every 2 regular season games suspension, that's 1 regular season suspension. And I think the precedent in the regular season for a chicken wing hit like that with no prior history, like suspension
Yeah,
history,
I
I
think
think
that's the
that
key to this too.
I think it should only warrant a 2 game suspension. Now, the my other contradictory thought to that is that's something that the NHL and that most fans, most sane fans at least, have been trying to, get rid of the game, from the game for a while now. Like, there's just no need and no place for that type of contact, that type of hit in the league anymore. So you know what? Balancing both of those arguments out, the 2-game suspension that you brought up, Cristian, is probably the ideal suspension for that type of hit and for, the player and personality. Unfortunately, that's going to come into play of Michael Bunting. So, I'm in agreement with 2 games, but you know what? I think he deserves all 3. I'm not going to lie to you. If this gives us 3 games now I guess we could go right into it. It appears that the next man up is Matthew Nice, right? That has to be the logical next step. So he comes in and we get him now for 3 games. What does he have to do, or what does Mike Bunting have to do to come back in this lineup for hopefully game 5?
It's a great question, Dave, because rationale has told us, and just the precedence is, if you change your lineup and you win the next game, you don't usually make changes. So, do the Leafs win 2 out of the next 3? And if so, do you bring Bunting back? This is something that I talked with some of my friends last night, and I also brought up in the chat. I don't remember if I brought it up last night or today. Just the idea of Bunting is going to be suspended. We're going to be without him. Is that necessarily a terrible thing? Sure, you're down a guy who scored 60 points last year, brink of 50 this year. Like, he's a good player when you take all the Bunting stuff aside. Just looking at the actual hockey player in between the whistles, he's
That's
a
a 20 goal
guy.
scorer, dude. 20
Yes,
goals,
yes,
60 points. Like,
yeah.
let's not sit around and say that he's, the 4th line pugs that used to play on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like, I don't want to call names out here, but like guys like Fraser McLaren, that was kind of their role, right? Colton Orr. Well, they were to fight too, but they were to spark some energy. That is what Michael Bunting does. He plays on that line. I believe Kevin Bieksa tried to, and this is the first time I don't think I've ever seen Kevin Bieksa defend the Leafs before, but I don't know if you picked it up, but Kevin Bieksa was kind of like, it's so tough to toe that line, to which I believe it was Kelly Rudy who kind of like jabbed back and was like, but he doesn't, like, he can't.
Yeah.
I think
it's one extreme or the other.
It definitely lies somewhere in the middle, because this is actually like, I don't think he's had a prior disciplinary suspension, right?
No, that's the whole thing. And listen, what I think is one of the questions I wanted to bring up was, did we see this coming? Because like the Bunting conversation was a ongoing one during the season, right? It's not like this. So this didn't pop out of nowhere. But what I was taken by surprise by is I didn't see Bunting getting suspended for an illegal hit. I didn't have that in my in my crystal ball. That's not what I was expecting. I was expecting dumb penalty behind the play, maybe just a slash to the back of the leg or something where it's like he's just been feisty all game and his temper blows and he takes a stupid penalty, but not stupid in terms of a dirty hit. That wasn't in Bunting's game, right? He's a greasy, annoying rat who can let his temper get the best of him, but not in the same way that we've seen from Kadri, for example, because everyone wants to make that comparison. These are 2 different players. They go about their off-ice or their antics in different ways. I think that's the biggest thing. So I was taken by surprise by this.
It's a fair on ice comparison to an extent. And I think the comparisons probably they start and they end at, they both picked up suspensions for an illegal check, right? Now 100%, like when Nas was around, it was the same as Bunting, where it was like, if you pushed his buttons enough, he would get pissed to do something stupid. We, like, to your point, Cristian, we've seen him get pissed, but it's always been a verbal assault kind of going the other way. Maybe, I think, to the extent, I would say maybe like a face wash or a cross check, something, something,
or the dive.
jovial.
We've seen a lot of the dive, right?
A lot of the dives. Yeah, that's true. But with Nas, what normally happened was what we commonly refer to as the red mist, right? He would just kind of see red, and whoever was around him kind of let all his anger out. think 1 year
Yeah.
was Tommy Wingles. The next year was, correct me if I'm wrong, it was somebody, was it McAvoy or DeBrusque? DeBrusque.
DeBrusque was, I think, the first one. Yeah. Yeah,
Was it
DeBrusque for
DeBrusque
sure.
first? The
Yeah.
right? So, all right. I don't know. Man, I mean, I think now what we have to hope for is and we'll get more into this for our preview of game 2, but well, Matthew Nyes is coming in now, right? We saw that preview, that little teaser right at the end of the regular season. Can he step it up now, or can he at least fill a position where the Leafs might be struggling? Another thing I wanted to mention, Cristian, by the end of that game yesterday, I think me and you called it when we did our Leafs preview, uh, playoff preview. We said that we kind of did our line adjustments, right?
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of called Mike Bunting not playing on that first line. We kind of forewarned Sheldon Keefe. Am I wrong? Like, am I wrong in
I
suggesting
think
that
you
we
did
did
for
that?
sure. Yeah, I think you did for sure. Yeah, you wanted O'Reilly at 3C. I think I did have Bunting on the first line just because we kind of like we already had that. Like that piece was given to us. So I'm like, okay, that's the line because well, Keith has
Yeah,
already said that's the line, right? But like if we were coming up with our own machinations, then yes, I think you definitely wanted your Croak on the first line. I probably would have too. And it does look like we're gonna get that. Um, I think we get into the line combos in the preview, like you said, and we can figure out where we want Yard and Croak, where we want Nyes. Kerfoot might be moved to. O'Reilly might be moved, like we talked about. I think let's go over the game and then
yeah,
give
let's do it.
some projections, right? So
All right.
how did this
So I
game
mean,
start, Dave? It started wonderful, didn't
let's
it?
let's pick it up. Yeah, it man, it started off thick, like quick and fast. Like,
Yeah,
oh, I will say this right now, put on record. All credit goes to Tampa, who
yeah, yeah.
clearly took a page out of, I don't even know like what you want to say. Like, they were definitely told that they were the underdogs this series, and
Well,
they
I think
did
they told
not like,
themselves that, right? Like, I
yeah.
think, and that's just an athlete mindset thing. That I think the one that's always brought up is Tom Brady, right? They win the Super
They never
Bowl and they're
believed
like,
in us.
yeah, it's
Tom,
like
this
I
is
don't know,
your
dude.
seventh ring, dude.
You're
We
Tom Brady.
believe.
Like,
I,
I think we believed, yeah.
you know
So
what though? There was time. I do remember there was times where it was. I think there was that big stretch between Tom's second and his third ring, where it was like, can he win another one? Well, dude, of course he can if he's got pieces like Rob Gronkowski on the team, right? So there's always gonna be doubters, right? But 100%, it does speak to the fact of that. It kind of feels like that championship mentality in a different way, where it's like we're still the Stanley Cup, finalists. We were previous like 2-time Stanley Cup winners. We've been here 3 times in a row. We know how to get back here. Why is everybody discrediting us? Right. And it kind of seems like I'd never wanted to say it. I was like, in the back of my head, I'm like, I did stuff like this before. I did say last year, I was like, they've got to be tired. They like it just has to be, right?
yeah.
And then what do they do? Like the
Uh,
Undertaker rising up after a 2.5 count. This just like dead men walking on there, dude. It's crazy. Hats off to Tampa. They played hard. They played fast. They played their game. They dictated play. I think that's what really stuck with me, with you, with a lot of Leaf fans. The Leafs just were not able to dictate play at all. There was stretches there 100%, but whoo, man, they got their show ran.
Absolutely. Dave, I was listening to tons of pregame content. I definitely listened to tons of post game as well, just running through all the podcasts you can think of. And I wish I could remember who had the line. It was on Sportsnet and Real Kipper and Born. They had Brad May on as a guest, and I don't know if it was his line or if he's taking it from someone else. We had a really good line because the usual line referring to pressure that we hear is pressure is a privilege, but this line was even better, and it was just the idea that pressure, you can feel the pressure or you can apply it. And my God, did the Leafs feel the pressure? And my God, did
Oh
Tampa Bay
man.
apply it? Right?
Oh man.
Because I felt like that line rang really true, and it was a little bit of a forecast for what was to come. Yeah, I don't know how else to explain the first 10 minutes. Then the fact that we looked nervous, we looked timid, we looked hesitant. The net front was just free space for
Non-existent.
anyone to
Yeah,
go, non-existent.
it
And
was that free space in, on bingo. That was the free space.
yeah,
That was
yes, right in the
it was
middle.
the pass, go, collect $200, collect your goal, Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, step right up. Then it was
Sorelli
collect
right
your
after.
goal, Anthony Sorelli. Then it was close to the end of the period, like 10
Yeah,
seconds left. What
yeah.
was it, less than 10?
It was, I think it was like 2.6. And the
Oh
thing is
my
with
god.
that, yeah,
Oh my
I know.
god.
And
Oh
the
my
thing with
god.
that is that was a theme that used to be common in past Leaf teams, right? The last minute or first minute backbreakers, and we saw both of them in this game.
Yeah.
And just
In
this goes
one
back to
period.
Babcock exactly, and what
Yeah.
we saw at the other period as well. But all those themes go back to the Babcock days, right? The we got to start on time, right? How often do we used to hear
Dude,
that,
there
right?
was a stretch of 30 games where they would concede the first goal.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, Freddie Anderson was normally on the recipient end of those first goals. We could have his discussions another time. But yeah, it was that Babcock era. Dude, it was one of those series against Boston. I could remember distinctly, like legitimately 30 games in a row, where it was 15 of them, they got scored on first, and Mike Babcock coming out to the press saying, well, guys, I can't do a Mike Babcock impression like you, Christian. So it's like, guys, we gotta start on time. It's like, thanks,
oh,
Mike. Like, that's what they're paying you to
yeah,
do. Make
yeah.
them
That
start on
sounds
time.
like a
Don't
you
make
problem.
us. That does sound
Yeah,
like a you problem, Mike.
yeah.
And it was a you.
So okay, so on that theme of coaching, I think the best place to analyze some of the first period problems is the opening face-off. We start the period with Ryan O'Reilly, William Nylander, John Tavares as our line, our forward, and we got Gio and Hall in the back end. They're going up against Tampa's big boys. They're going up against Point, Kucherov, Stamkos, and it quickly went to crap. That and what happened? What this was the turning point is Cooper plays his big boys. What line came on next after the big boys? The fourth line, Tampa's fourth line. We have home ice advantage. So we dictate who comes on after that, right? And Keefe responds with our
Our
fourth
fourth
line.
line.
And a lot of people are taking exception to
That
that.
is the perfect time to put on your
Yeah.
former 60 goal scorer, your current 99 should probably
Yeah.
be 100-point scorer, and
And the other guy.
unfortunately the other guy, he who shall not be named. We're not going to name him the rest of the episode. He is
Mike
Voldemort right now.
Bunting. Oh god. Okay. Well, yeah. I couldn't help myself there. But yeah. So listen, do you take exception to that as well? Because I think we definitely can. Because is
Yeah.
that Keith overcoaching? Is
Oh,
that him
100%.
overthinking it? Okay,
100%.
so to play devil's advocate, and I do think I agree with what we're saying. I do agree, overcoaching, all that good stuff. I also feel like if the roles were reversed and it was Tampa coming out with their fourth line in Tampa, like them having home ice advantage and choosing to go with the fourth line, we'd be like, that's a coach showing faith in his bottom six. That's a guy saying, I trust my players and I don't care who they're up against. They can go out. That, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just, it
Okay.
really is optics. And if I feel like
So
this is a scenario where because they got scored on, we are obviously going to criticize him more. But the
sure.
results are the results. Like it does
So
deserve
is that
criticism.
more of a question of our bottom three, our fourth line,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
is
okay.
it a statement on Tampa Bay's fourth line, who has been regarded as probably one of the league's best fourth assemblement of fourth liners over the past
Definitely the
4
playoffs,
years? Oh,
right? Because
100%.
if you look at their
Yeah.
production in the regular season this
Yeah.
year,
You know
they
what?
were a microcosm of everyone saying, "Oh, these guys are tired. These guys are
Yeah.
old. They're aging," and that was reflected in the fourth line's play. Like Maroon would be healthy
Dude,
scratch. These guys just didn't have the same production. And then
you
flip
you
of
know
a
what I
switch.
see? You know what I see on that fourth line? Former Stanley Cup winner Corey Perry. I see former 3 straight time Stanley Cup winner Pat
Yeah,
Maroon.
yeah.
And did Edward Balmar not win with Colorado last year?
No, he was still with Tampa last year. I'm trying to remember if he was on Tampa their second cup, and I can't remember. I'm trying to think where he was before, but it's not
Well,
coming
I
off the
mean,
top
he
of my
made it
head.
to the finals. Okay,
Yeah,
granted. It's not a cup win if he doesn't have a cup. I have a feeling he does, but
I can't
I'm not even
remember.
going to fact check that. But you're
Yeah.
still playing alongside two former Stanley Cup winners.
And
One of
we
them's a
saw him score a goal. Like he's part of the
yeah,
success, right?
oh,
Yeah.
100%, right? So maybe it's I don't even want to pin it on lack of inexperience because like the guys on that fourth line, like David Camp, that was
Yeah.
Camp, Zach Aston Reese, and Sam Lafferty, who all three of them, I'd say maybe except for Camp, had pretty poor showings. Camp always gets like he could have a bad game and I'll still be like, oh, it was a C game for
He
him.
wins all the
You know what I mean?
face-offs. And listen, I watched the replays of the goals back like literally half an hour ago. And Camp is like partially to blame on that first goal because the puck comes into the corner and he's part of that battle and he loses that battle to Perry. So like you can throw some blame there. I almost throw as much blame on Zach Aston Reese for that goal as I do Giordano and Hall. Like they look like chickens without a head on that play,
Yeah.
especially
It's
Giordano because he's
especially
also in
oh
that corner
yeah.
battle.
You know
Yeah,
what? I was
yeah.
gonna say, especially Justin Hall, who kind of stopped
Well,
moving.
listen, both of them. Yes,
Yeah.
but and you know what? Like
Yeah.
it's we
Listen, you
saw
could
Hall
pick
play
an
so well down the stretch, man. Yeah, they were both
that's
bad. They were both bad. This is one of my takeaways. Like literally watching the game was just how often I noticed Justin Hall and Giordano out there. Like it just felt like every other shift, which I mean
yeah.
maybe it was. Maybe that's borne out in the ice time. But it felt like in the past 20 regular season games, we didn't notice Justin Hall, and that was a great thing.
Yeah.
And within one game, it's like, oh my god, he's out there again and again and again.
The
And it
guys I want to notice more are
yeah,
guys like Jake McCabe and TJ Brody, who had, I would say,
Brody.
lukewarm.
Yeah, I like McKay more than
Brody
Brody
less
last night.
so. Yeah,
Yeah,
Brody less so. I think Jake McCabe, I would honestly say out of the six, had maybe the best impact all around on the game. He had that
probably.
hit on Yesimont. He I don't think he really got bitten
He
too
would
hard.
so he was on for the Sorelli goal. He was on for
Okay.
that one.
Right.
And once again, like
The
both of
the
those
other thing to that is, five of the goals, four of the goals came on the power play, right?
yeah,
Which
four of them, yeah.
unfortunately is Justin Hall's job and Gio's job and TJ Brody's job. Like I saw a video today. It was like Justin Hall was on the ice for like 5 of the 7 Leaf Tampa goals. And
I know Gio was on for the first three. I know that for sure.
yeah, I could there was times where it's like I could say wholeheartedly that first goal, like, Justin, you've got to start moving your feet some more. But then to counteract that, I would say the Kucherov goal, the third goal of the first period,
Power play.
it's not really like his fault. You know what I mean? There
Yeah,
was a bad bounce here, puck squirting out there.
I put
Kucherov
that one a
one
little bit more
time.
on Sammy, honestly. Listen,
Yeah.
like Cooch he went top ends, like it was a snipe. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
Once again, I
100%.
look back at that replay. Sammy goes down really early. Like he had no idea where the
Yeah,
puck was. Maybe that's because Giordano was screening him. Definitely
maybe.
possible. But yeah, like Sammy was not in his that
Well,
was not one of his best moments, and he didn't have many. He had maybe one in
I
this whole game. But
if
yeah,
if
that
we
was
want to
not good.
hop
That
on
was the
that, do
start.
you have anything else to say, or do you want to hop
I
on that
think
topic a little bit?
well, I think that's the first period in a nutshell. I think we
Yeah,
covered everything from the first period.
it was bad. It was
Eh,
absolutely awful. Like
yes, and Sammy was part of that.
that was genuinely I how many games did you say that me and you watched this year?
We
70
watched
plus
90% of the games. We
at
watched
least,
90%
right?
of the Leafs games. Yeah.
Could you pick off the top of my head? Okay, granted, regular season and playoff periods.
Yeah, it's different.
Off
Yeah,
the
like
top of my head, I don't think I could pick out a worse period than that.
no,
That
you're
was
probably going back to the first 2 weeks, right?
Yeah,
And so if
maybe
you
the
exclude that,
Anaheim.
where yeah, but
Yeah.
I don't even like I feel like that's just like so far long ago. Like Nicole Kubel and Dennis Malgin are on this team. Like
Mhm.
it's not even like relevant anymore. If you exclude those 2 weeks, I can't
Yeah.
think of a period as bad, right?
I think maybe
So
the only one that kind of comes close, that just kind of sticks out on my mind, was that Vancouver game in Vancouver
well,
where
that
they
was a
gave
bad
up
one
2
right after the
shorthanded
deadline.
goals. Was it not two
Yeah.
shorthanded goals and like on like back-to-back
Yeah. It
plays or
was
something like that?
Pedersen and Miller, I believe, right? Yeah.
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 So
That was right after the deadline. That was the Edmonton game where we got shelled. And then Calgary, I think we beat them, and then Vancouver was another terrible
yeah,
game. Yeah, that's it. So that's what, month and a half ago, 2 months ago?
close to 2 months. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was when we had all these new pieces and whatever. The point is, it was goddamn awful. Yeah, let's talk
Yeah.
about Sammy in that first period because I think it just kind of continued into the second, so it doesn't really matter when we bring it up. The Sammy conversation, you use the word jittery, I believe, and that's what Sammy looked like, and that's what Sammy has looked like when he hasn't been good, right? Um, the biggest thing is like he's over pushing to posts. Like it looks like
Mhm.
he just looks like he has to like consciously think about too many decisions. He's just not letting it be instinctive. It's just these crazy movements back and forth. It was just, yeah, it wasn't necessarily what we've seen from a calm Sammy. What did you see from Samsonov? Like any indicators or
So here's my thing. As a guy who always watched hockey, never played hockey growing up, if I notice, and I'm not like even as a goal, like you could tell, like as a forward, as a defenseman, goalies have their own thing, altogether. It's a
they're certified
goaltender's
weirdos?
certified weirdos. If the average fan could notice that something's up with your play, there's
Yeah.
a sign that something's wrong with your play. I called it. I don't know if or somebody, maybe it was you, maybe it was me. Maybe after the second goal, I think I was like, dude, this guy looks squirrely right now. He looks like
Yeah.
you know what he kind of reminded me of, not to this extent.
Jack
He
Campbell.
looked. I was gonna go Peter
Okay.
Mrazek, but Jack Campbell as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, no,
You
it's a
know,
fair one too,
they
right?
and at their worst, squirrely guys, very
Yep.
squirrely goalies.
Yep.
Um, like going through my head too. It's just like I don't know. Do we want to keep going into the second period here?
Yeah, I have one question for you on Sammy though. I
Okay.
have one question.
Okay.
Do you think he was playing injured? Like, okay, we know he has an injury. Do we think that's to blame? Because I think it was Mike McKenna on Twitter. He had a clip from the second period. Do you remember when Sammy made that save? It was a pad save, and he absolutely kicked a rebound out to like Kingdom Come. Like it was a huge rebound,
Okay.
and like he really stuck out his pad there, and he instinctively like he let his blocker down as if like he had to wince like his leg, basically what we've been seeing for the past 2 weeks. So I think we know Sammy is injured. It's just a matter of to what extent. I don't know if we can give, and I don't want to say it's an excuse because injuries are injuries, and Tampa's got lots of them. Like they're not excuses, but I do wonder how much of a role that plays. But we know that Samson's coming in game two, so maybe the answer is it doesn't play too much of a role. What do you think on that front?
Uh I kind of feel. I mean, listen,
Is it a cop out?
yeah, it sort of feels a little bit like a cop out because it's at this point it's listen, who are you gonna throw in there? You're gonna put in the 23-year-old Joseph Wall in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You have to go in, dude. Whether unfortunately we don't have the luxury right now of having a healthy Matt Murray where you could probably say, maybe, there's definitely a question to be
yeah.
posed there. Um, I don't know. 100% he's probably playing with something. That does not look like the same Ilya Samsonov that I saw a month ago. I would say even 2 weeks ago,
He
I
might
would
have
say.
even been. I honestly think he was injured, like even in those games. So maybe that goes to
Yeah,
the point that it
maybe.
doesn't matter, right? Because we saw him wincing in games where he was playing good,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah, that is true.
he's probably dealing with something that he can't necessarily aggravate, but is definitely going to cause pain, and he's got to battle through it. I think that's probably where Sammy's at. Yeah,
Listen, at the end of the day, it's also not like his team in front of him helped out entirely. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, I'm not gonna put all 7 goals or 6 goals because he was in for only six. All
I think
six
you could
goals
put
of
half
blame.
of them on partially on him. Like
Yeah,
if a goalie
yeah,
is
yeah,
on his game, you can say like those are saves,
yeah.
which
I
is
would say
obviously
three
isn't
and
good.
three is fair. 3 and 3,
Yeah, yeah,
I could get behind that 100%.
yeah.
Now, I don't know. Do you want to head on to the next period?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
This is the the tiny bit of shining
Yeah,
rainbows
yeah.
in Leafs land.
This was the false dawn period, I would say, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I believe at this point in the game, the penalties, it felt like it was like 5-1.
So I think I know for a fact we took two in the first period.
Only
We
two?
killed, I think only two, but we killed one, and then Kucherov scored. I'll double check to see if we took more.
I
But
guess
yeah,
you know
I
what?
know.
Come to think of it, you might be right there.
Yeah, I'm not 100%, but I know. I think Shen took one in the first, and then
Yeah.
can't remember the other one. But yeah, we come out, and I think the story to start the period is Warriors Victor Hedman because he's not on the bench,
Mm.
right? So, that's the start of the period, and he doesn't come out for basically a couple minutes, and he takes a twirl on the ice, and
He goes right
exits the
back
game.
into the room, right?
He
Which
exits the
is,
game.
I'll be honest with you, when seeing that, I was like, I breathed one of the biggest sighs of relief because that guy
Yeah.
is an absolute menace
Yes.
especially against us in the playoffs, man. He's been lethal. And you know what? Then that something did spark. There was 100% a spark being lit in the intermission because the Leafs started to play their game. It looked like I would
Yeah.
say for
Even
the
before the power plays, right? Like I
yeah,
feel like some
yeah,
people are saying, oh, they don't get back into this game without the
yeah.
power plays. No, no, no. They earned those penalties. Maybe the Bunting one is a little bit wishy-washy, but I mean they started playing better, and that's how they ended up getting those chances.
Compared to what was called in that game, I think that was a fair call.
And that's what I would call it fair. Yeah.
A hundred
And maybe
percent, like
even leaning more towards like, oh, I'm surprised we got that
yeah,
because of
a hundred
Bunting,
percent.
right?
Well, because in
Yeah.
games past, especially with another he who shall not be named in Wes McCauley, it kind of felt
McCall
like
Demort. I'm sorry. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
it just
Yeah.
felt like you could literally get away with chopping Michael Bunting down like a lumberjack, and there'd be nothing. Like the rest would just look the other
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
So there was a bit of relief. So yeah, so the Leafs get two power play goals, I would say, within quick succession. But I believe that
Yeah.
there was a penalty kill in between the two power plays, if I'm not mistaken.
There might have been. I actually don't remember myself
Or
either.
maybe what I'm thinking of is there was a penalty after the there was a Tampa penalty after the Leafs second power play, so it would have been 3-2
Definitely,
still.
because that was
And
when the penalty you're thinking of is the Jake McCabe hit,
yeah,
and then Kampf gets the
yes,
flash call.
yeah, yes,
Yeah, but
yes,
I
yeah.
want to go back because I do want to highlight the power play there. I what did I text in our chat there? I said second
Oh,
period key power play. We got to
yeah.
score on the power play. We got it. We got to show
And
Tampa what's up.
who did you say would
I
score
said
on this
roar.
power play?
ROR is getting one. Ryan freaking
Man,
Riley.
oh
And
man, oh
oh my
man.
god, that was sweet. That was sweet. So that was nice to see the power play changes we made were working. For both guys, right? Not just O'Reilly. But then
Hmm.
Nylander follows it up on the next power play, and it's a snipe.
Yeah,
It's a total
beautiful.
snipe. He hangs onto the puck, and yeah, he snipes it. Derek Lalonde was on the broadcast. I was a big fan of him. I liked a lot of the stuff he had to say. Like he's
I
got some
called him.
really good technical insight. What?
That
Oh,
guy looks. That guy looks. I feel so bad that I'm going to say this on camera. That guy looks exactly like Uncle Fester from the Addams Family. I said that
you're not wrong, man.
in my family room with my
Oh yeah,
grandparents are there, my aunts are there. I'm like, dude, is that Uncle Fester on the TV? And everybody looked and was like, oh my
it is.
god, that was scary. We were dying of
Listen,
laughter. It was so
he's
funny.
he's the type of guy where honestly, like he seems like he's got a sense of humor. Like he's
Yeah,
definitely heard that before, and he's the
oh,
type of guy to laugh
100%.
along to that, right? So
Yeah.
I
I
don't think he
bet
takes
you
offense to
I
that.
bet you Derek Lalonde at one point in his life has dressed up as either Uncle Fester or Gru from Despicable Me. One of the two.
Oh, 100%. Gru's another good call.
Gru's a good one,
100%.
dude.
He could definitely do the voice. Definitely,
Oh
man.
yeah.
Oh man.
Oh yeah.
Honestly, I think this is the first time we've had, like, at least that I can think of, an employed head coach as an analyst during the playoffs. Like, I don't remember seeing that.
Yeah,
I
I
feel like
think
that's more of like
so.
an NBA thing or other sports. In hockey, it's
Very
usually
rare.
here's the dude who just got fired. Here's the dude who's been out of a job for 2 years and he's got nothing
Yeah.
else to do. So we're gonna take him on,
Here's
aka Bruce
Dave
Boudreau.
Poulin.
Here's Dave Poulin, who just he took the job and he never left. Yeah. So that was a breath of fresh air. He had some really good technical insight talking about like Tampa, the diamond formation on the
Well,
penalty
he
kill,
knows it's
right?
because he knows the
Oh,
system, right?
he was there
Like,
last year, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
he was literally
crazy.
referring to himself. He's like, "Here's where
This is
we
what
do
we
this."
did.
I'm like, "Dude,
Oh,
you
I
you
was
know
like,
you coach
God
Detroit
damn it.
now." I
I was
know
like,
it was funny.
wow, like, come on.
Um, Dave, I feel like we covered the first portion here, and this next portion is where we get into a bunch of controversial stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
100%. We got into our, I would say, our fool's gold. I would say the next is when we kind of get bit in the snake bitten, whatever you want to call it.
everywhere.
Yeah,
We get bit
yeah,
everywhere.
lots
Yeah.
of snake bites. So we'll be right back just after a quick break. All right, so we are back from our quick little break. So we kind of teased you guys before the break with so we had our fool's gold. The Leafs are currently at this point in the game down
We're only
3 to
down by
2.
one.
They're down by
Crowd
1.
is going wild, boys.
Man,
It's rocking in Scotiabank.
when the fans are fully behind this team, not like after the first period when they were booing the team, which I saw a lot of people saying like, how could you not support, like, why are people
Yeah.
booing? If
Yeah,
I
no,
spent
I'm
$1,000 to sit at that game and that was the fucking shit I saw, I would have thrown something
100%.
on the ice. Are you crazy?
100%.
Are you
Yeah, and
kidding me?
Oilers fans did that in their game, and their team actually played well for most of the game.
Yeah,
So yeah,
for like
Leafs fans are
50
definitely
minutes.
justified. Yeah, exactly. Leafs fans were definitely justified for booing. They probably booed at the end of the second and the third too. Like all of it justified.
It was
And
very noticeable after the first. Like, I made
yes,
a
yes,
note of
hundred
it, and
percent,
I was like,
hundred
yeah.
percent. It's Sammy was like it was tough seeing fans go. It's not good, like, right?
No,
It affects them, man.
of
Well,
course,
not affects them. Like I don't think it's a bad thing. Like you said, totally justified. But the players take notice and they understand that that's how much it means to us. That's what I think we're getting
100%.
to.
I think
So
for
yeah,
sure.
fool's gold, 2 power play goals, and then we transition into some of the rough stuff. Specifically, Jake McCabe absolutely laying out Mikey Isemont, who I do want to say I noticed, and they've also noticed. We talked about he kind of fit in like for a waiver claim, originally by San Jose from Winnipeg, and then a random pickup at the deadline by the Lightning. He fit in pretty well. He
Yeah.
looked like a Lightning, which is we always talked about it. The sniff test, he passed the Tampa sniff test.
Oh
So,
yeah. Pass
yeah,
with flying colors.
flying colors. Unfortunately, he was flying and maybe hit his head on the ice. Yeah, he got absolutely clobbered by Jake McCabe. He gets off the ice, but he's on the floor, and Nick Paul comes to Jake McCabe, and he's like, "Hey, dude, what did you just do there, buddy? Like, they're starting to tangle, but hockey's still being played while this is going on." Leafs are in their own zone, and like these two are just kind of going out, and the refs are just like, "Okay, well, I don't know what to do here. It's not like it's my job to call the play dead or something." And it was just a total mess. And David Camp, of all people, was the one who ends up getting a call out of this for a slash behind the not behind the play, in the play
In the play.
where the scrum is happening behind the play. And that was the turning point of the game,
Yeah.
right? That's where
Well,
things kind
because
of went off
that
the rails.
slash, like, I don't even know if that's a regular season call slash.
I
You know
know,
what I
man. I
mean?
know. I know.
Like, that's a
Yeah.
really, I get it. If you want it, I get the even up actually, I don't get the even up argument, but I
Yeah,
get
exactly.
why they do it, I guess, to an extent. But that, like, really, if at the very least you call the play dead at the
Yeah.
line when Jake McCabe hit Mikey Isemont, and Nick Paul is quite literally slashing him with like he's
Yeah.
he's lumberjacking.
He's doing way more than Cam's doing.
Even worse, much worse.
To me, what this reeked of is the refs saw the hit, didn't know if there was head contact, and said, "Well, we can just kind of maybe find a Leaf penalty here, and then even if there wasn't head contact, we'll just say we called the penalty, and that'll save face for us." I feel like that's what they did, which is
Chicken shit
despicable.
excuse, sure.
Yes, yeah. Okay, so that happens. Leafs go on the penalty kill on this David Camp penalty, and Braden Point scores in front of the net from a Kucherov pass. Brody loses him. It definitely does. It's not a good look on Brody. Especially, I watched it back, and Brody's trying to take away Point's hands with his stick. Like he's trying to kind of slash him, not on the hands, but just underneath, and it just did nothing. Like prioritize the puck or prioritize the body. Go for a cross check at his body. Not even with the actual stick. You can do it with your hands, whatever. Like actually knock off his path that he's taking with the puck. Brody was not able to do that. Point puts it in. Once again, Sammy's kind of flopping. He ends up on his side. Not a good look for Sammy again. So that's at least two already. And you can maybe say one of the first two are his fault as well. Depends on what you want to look at, who you want to
No,
blame.
I'll put some
Right?
I would put some blame on Sammy there too,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
It looked like
So
he got beaten as Point was coming out in front of the net. Like he
yeah.
was lost. It's like he didn't expect him. You know, you could see him making that angle cutting across, and he saw it, and he was like, "Oh my god, what am I
He
going to
went
do?"
desperation style way too early. I think that's what he did.
Yeah, a hundred
Right? So
percent.
so 3-2, obviously a huge
4-2.
momentum changer. Sorry, 4-2, huge momentum changer. And then we get the biggest momentum changer,
Yeah, but
right?
even at that point, it's like, okay, we
Yeah,
still scored. At this point, it was like
it's still a
just
game.
a shy under halfway through the second. So there's
Yeah,
probably close to 30 minutes to go in this game, right?
yeah.
The Leafs had scored 2 power play goals. It felt like in, it was like 4 minutes before they could do
We were
something
very much
again,
in it. Yeah,
generate something 5-on-5 maybe. At this point, they were still very much in it. Now, we alluded to this at the beginning. I guess I don't know if we still want to, did we kind of cover it in depth? Like, this is probably you could nail it on ahead where it's the hashtag TSN turning point.
yeah,
When Michael Bunting laid a chicken wing, because it was a chicken wing at the end of
yeah,
the day.
yeah,
That's a chicken wing, illegal check to the head to Eric Cernak, who it looks like he was out the rest of the game in concussion protocol. I believe isn't gonna draw
yeah.
in tomorrow night either.
He's been slated as out. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think we got to cover too much of it. Once again, like illegal hit, bad timing, puck is nowhere to be seen. That's a big thing, right? Because I think if the puck is within reach, Chernak is probably bracing himself because the puck is in the corner and they're not exactly there yet. I don't think Chernak was really expecting a hit. So that's where Bunting, whether you want to say, oh, it wasn't malicious, or oh, he was looking for the shoulder, he ended up getting the head, doesn't matter in that scenario because
I
you just
think
don't hit guys there.
I think even if he doesn't hit him in the head, I think
Yeah,
that's still an interference
no,
call.
it's
Like,
still that's what it is. That's what I'm
yeah,
saying, right? Like
like
there's not really a way
blatant.
to defend him.
No, there wasn't.
Which is unfortunate, but nah.
That was his red mist moment. 100, and it kind of felt like, I don't know. I like, why? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
That's
I know you want to spark
it was
the team.
surprising for me,
I
man.
get it,
Yeah,
but not like that, Mike. Come
I
on.
know. I do think
Come
this is a
on.
good spot to talk about the fact that obviously Tampa had a game plan to target Bunting.
Yeah. Oh, it was
Because
very
up to
noticeable
that
too.
point, very noticeable. Every scrum with him on the ice ended up being a little, yeah, a
It was
scrum
like
after
four. It
whistle.
was 4-on-1 on Mike. I
They
felt like,
all would go in. Like I noticed him so much. Just whoever was in the bottom six or whoever was out there, honestly, was grabbing Bunting. And honestly, up until that point, I thought he did a good job of keeping his cool. Like he was definitely yapping on his way back to the bench. But I mean, if that's all
he
he's doing, we'll
kept
take it,
he definitely kept his
right?
lid on, in wherein like months past and weeks past,
Yes, yeah,
it could have definitely got overblown
yeah.
100%.
I do think he made the conscious choice where he's like, I'm not doing it, I'm not doing it, I'm not doing it. At least up until that point. And just going back to the idea of Michael Bunting as a hockey player, I thought he was actually good. I thought he played a decent game up to that point. You know, he had a chance here and there. He was in the forecheck. Not that he was like really imposing himself on the game, like a difference
Yeah.
maker, but definitely more than we saw last year. Which yeah was because of injury. Like he did injure himself before the series, but yes. So I think that definitely closes the Bunting chapter. 5 minute major misconduct leaves the game. We gotta kill a 5 minute penalty in game one again. Second year in a row. Doesn't go as well this time.
Yeah.
Corey Perry scores a controversial goal. This is the one that kind of squeaks on the left post. Everyone's
That's
confused. Where the
still
hell is the puck? And
I
it's still confusing.
I will lay my thoughts out on here right now. That's
Yeah.
not a goal. It's just
Okay.
not a goal.
So here's how I want to break it down. So is your contention that the puck did not cross the goal line?
Yeah, it didn't cross
Okay.
the line 100%.
Okay.
And why I'll say this is the example that I brought up yesterday in our chat was in the FIFA World Cup that just happened in Qatar. There was an incident where Japan had the ball. It looked on bird's eye, it looked like it was out completely. But there was still, it was like whether it was like a strand of the ball or whatever, the thing was still touching that line due to like it was like, you know, depth perception and stuff like
Yeah.
that. uh so I think it's unconclusive to say that it fully crossed the line. The problem though was that it was called a goal on the ice. If
That's
it
what I was going to
was
bring up. Yeah.
if that goal, you know, if the play had stopped and then they went to review and then they said, you know, we feel that the puck fully crossed the line, I still wouldn't agree
Yeah.
with it. But then they said, you
But
know,
you
we
would get
had
it.
the look and we feel like, you know, because you could like there was white space, but you know, whether that's snow, whether that's, you know,
Yeah.
it's up for interpretation,
Yes.
right? The fact of the matter is that the refs, you know, I get he's standing on top of it and this is what he sees, but at the very least, you should have let the video do its justice, I guess is the point that I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
Like you have the review there to do the work. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, one of the I believe during the intermission, it was kind of implied that it was because the head ref, I believe it was Wes McCauley that actually made the call. Because it was his call, he wasn't going to find a reason to find it overturned. I believe that was the sentiment. I think Friedman had said something on that. I can't.
I feel like basically the point they were trying to make is like, look, here's the angle. Look, you see the puck cross the line. Look, and BXO was saying like, did it though? Like he
Yeah,
was still not convinced with the freaking picture in front of him because I think there was some truth to that. I don't
yeah.
think necessarily that the picture was conclusive, but like we talked about, the tiebreaker was the fact that they called it a goal on the ice. I think that was the tiebreaker. So that's regarding the puck crossing the line. My contention might have honestly been more with was a goaltender interference. To me, the puck is covered and it's just not visible, and his pad is pushed in. Had had motion stopped, had everyone ceased to skate, that puck isn't going in. Right?
It's not
It
in.
is
Yeah.
obviously a function of his pad being pushed. Goaltender interference is obviously a muddy area. Just it's just like every given game, it's a different definition. So it's tough to really get into the nitty gritty regarding that. Sometimes that's called no goal. Sometimes that's called a goal. I don't really know where to fall on that one. I think something that we can argue more is if we agree or disagreed with Keith's decision to challenge the play. There's people who said, well, you don't even bother challenging it because then you're going to go on a 5-on-3 and you might as well end the game there. I think it was an all right call. I
No,
really,
it's a fair call to
yeah,
me. I think the biggest problem going against the call though is that the call was already made. So I think in my
it
mind,
was a double challenge. That's right. Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like the refs weren't going to be like, oh well, you know, oh we didn't like. What were they going to find different
Yeah.
on the second look around? You know what I
I
mean?
think that's a fair point. Honestly, I think that can. I think I'll flip sides here. I'll say, you know what, could have done without him. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah,
I think that's fair to say.
I think
Yep.
if okay, so I'll play devil's advocate for Keith here. If I was in that position and I'm down 4-2, you know what? I've got nothing to lose. Or you,
Might as
well, I
well
mean, you
wrap a
do actually,
timeout
you
in a
actually,
review in one.
he has a lot to lose. I'm not gonna lie to
Yeah.
you. Probably
Yes.
not the best sentiment there, but you know, you might as well, right? At least show that you are willing to, like, the guys are they're gonna have to be behind you. If this is what you feel, the guys have to agree with it. Um, they
I'd rather
listen.
see that call now than in like game five. Like find out if the
Yeah,
refs are willing to change their mind, or not the refs because they don't make the decision. If
yeah,
Toronto,
hundred
the
percent.
control room, right?
Well, now you
I'd rather
know.
see that call there.
Now you know if it does come down to something like that, it might it probably you probably just leave it the way it is. If they
Yeah.
call it, they call it. And maybe that saves, goal 6 and 7. Maybe Sammy stays in the game because then they score immediately on that 5-on-3 for to make it
Yes.
6,
Yeah.
right?
And that's
Um
Braden Point with 2 seconds left.
yeah, yeah,
And
legitimately
that
true.
one, that was the softest one. If you go
Yeah,
back and watch that, it is just a backhand with
yeah.
nothing on it. It
Hmm.
is rolling on its side and it goes 5-0.
Yeah.
That is the softest one. And that takes us through two periods. And I think really there's only three things to address in the third period. Number one being the decision to bring in Wall versus Samsonov. I mean, you discussed this as it was discussed on intermission. We both came to the conclusion that we would have rather seen Sammy play it out. I do think I would change my mind in retrospect. And I guess that my contention is it does seem like Sammy's playing with an injury. Like whether like it's not going to get worse, it doesn't seem like, but there's pain involved. And I do think that if you could save him those 20 minutes, there is some value in that. And there also might be value in seeing Joe Wall play a playoff period, right? So we did get to see that. So I don't hate the decision in retrospect. I know where we were coming from earlier was the idea that he's going to play game two. He's going to start game two. Like get him reps. Maybe he can become acclimated a bit more in the third period. Maybe he's pestered with a bunch more shots, but he's able to make some great saves, and there's value in that as well. But I get both sides here. I don't really have too much contention with the decision. Do you still feel a certain way about it, or where are you at?
I think at the time it was just my anger and my desolation, I guess we could say,
Yeah,
with the team.
we
It
were
was
still
kind
holding
of
hope. We're like, oh,
it
keep
was
the best
definitely
game out there. Like, oh, they could do it somehow.
I mean, you never know, right? I've seen
It's the
stranger things
playoffs, right?
happen.
Yeah.
It does
Oh yeah.
that is like hands down got to be one of the most unlikely things to end up happening if they were to have come back from that.
Yeah.
Um Right. I don't know. I do feel your sentiment. I don't even have that strong of opinion. I had a stronger opinion on it yesterday. If you had asked me
Yeah.
this 24 hours ago, I would say I probably would have been like, oh, dude, Samsonov needed to finish that game. Whatever. I mean, at the end of the day, the damage was already done. In
Yeah.
hindsight, they ended up scoring Morgan Riley got put on
Nick
toast.
Perbix just with a dime
Oh,
there. Yeah. That's one that I didn't get to watching back because I know you were saying Morgan didn't have the best
oof.
game, and I wanted to go back and look at the replay. Is it just like you just got burnt? Like you just couldn't keep up? Was it just that?
Yeah, it looked like Ross Colton. Like it was a dime pass,
Yeah.
but then he just couldn't keep up to like Ross
Okay.
Colton.
Okay.
Yeah, like
I
Ross
do wonder
Colton.
if it was at the end of his shift or not, but Russ Colton, man, that guy
Yeah,
kills us. Oh, he's a
he
good
does.
player.
He does.
He's really
Oh,
good, man.
dude. I mean, listen. I would say top to bottom, that's still a fantastic team. Like, there's no
Yeah,
doubt about
it
it.
is. It is.
It
Okay.
just it's just unfortunate that I think the Leafs have a fantastic team as well, and that
Yes.
fantastic team just didn't show up.
It'd be great to see these two teams play at their best, right?
100%.
I think that would be really nice to see because even in
Well,
last
I
series,
think we
we played so
will
many games. Yes, I do too. I
at
do
some
too.
point. We will.
Yeah, and just going back, like last series, how many games? Like two or three games where only one team showed up, right?
Hmm.
That happened a
And it
bunch.
was like on both ends, right? It wasn't
That's
just
what I'm
like it
saying.
was
Yeah,
one team didn't show up and it was always the Leafs. It was like, well,
yeah,
one team showed up and it was the Leafs, and the other team, and
yeah,
Tampa didn't show up, right? Uh,
yeah.
yeah. So I think now I guess because we're done all the goals. Do you have anything to add about the game? I guess we could mention that Kelly
Yeah.
Armstrong scored hands down,
I
probably
think we can.
our
What do you got
joint
to say?
our joint
Yeah,
favorite player. Like,
he's definitely the pod favorite. Like even
yeah,
Brian would join us in that
yeah,
fact. One more thing, game related.
sure,
And it's just making another parallel to last year's series. Game one leaves from 5-0. It gets a little rough at the end from Tampa, right?
yeah,
You got Maroon and Perry. You got the whole gang just trying to stir something up because the game's over. Might as well get something going. And we didn't see that from the Leafs, right? They're down big and they kind of just not coasted, but they were absolutely not. Once again, going back to the, you can either you can either feel the pressure or apply it. Leafs didn't apply it, right? So do you take exception with that? Because I don't know.
Yeah,
I do
I
kind
do.
of like I
I
just
I
yeah,
do actually. I genuinely take
something.
exception with that. Anytime you are playing a professional or a sport, I will go as far as to say, anytime you are playing a sport, if there is time left on the clock, there is time to get back into the game, the series, whatever it is.
That's the thing here. Is the series. It's a series,
Yeah,
right? It's not like after this game, you're not playing Tampa again. You are playing Tampa. So things
yeah,
you do in this game can have an effect on future games.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
where the difference is here,
Right.
right? Yeah.
I've seen it, like, like playing sports growing up. It's like, guys, don't get too down on yourself. Like, just put in, that's if you had put in a relatively similar effort than to what you did in the second, maybe you make it a more competitive game. Maybe you score one more goal. Maybe instead of a 7-3 loss, it's a 7-4 loss. And we could
Is there
look
not
back and
value
say,
in saying you scored 4 goals on Vasi? It sounds a little bit
yeah,
better than you scored 3 goals on
you
Vasi,
allowed
right? I
seven
would,
goals, unfortunately, right? But
yeah, yeah,
you scored 4 goals, right? How many
yeah,
how many teams in the playoffs and over the past three,
yep,
4 years now have done that multiple
yep,
times, right? Or once in
yep.
a series, right?
Okay.
Um,
We're running really short on time. You have someone else there? You want to finish that thought?
no, that's all I wanted to say.
Okay.
It's just like,
Okay.
oh, it aggravates me whenever I see
I know.
that, because it's like there's time on the clock.
Yeah.
I'll give credit to Tampa. They did shut it down as well. They
Yeah.
knew that could have went one of two ways, and they dictate, again, going back to what I said before, they dictated the play in the third period 100%, and they dictated a very low event third period. So that's it.
Yeah.
So I done with that game. Wash it, wipe your hands clean slate. Game 2 tomorrow night in back at the Scotiabank Arena. What do we want to see, Cristian?
Well, I think we want to see the opposite of what we saw last night, right?
Well,
I wish I
that's on the
wish it was
top of
as
the
simple
list.
as that, man, right?
Yeah.
Listen, I do want to just say, like, there was in performances that I didn't hate last night. There was some that maybe you might even call fine, okay, maybe even good. I thought Ryan O'Reilly was fantastic, and that's
Yeah.
aside from the fact that I said he's going to score a goal in the period, and then he scored. I thought he looked really good, especially when they had the face cam on O'Reilly when Willie scored. It reminded me of Dart Guy. Like that's what it reminded me of. Like I don't know. That's what it reminded me of,
That's
man.
Leaf legend,
Listen,
Dark
man.
Guy.
Yes, Leaf legend Dart Guy and Leaf legend Ryan O'Reilly. Willie played a great game. I was wearing this jersey last night because I felt the guy who needed
So
the
was I.
most mojo was Marner. And I wasn't the most impressed with this game, to be honest. I don't want to get too much into it because, like I said, short on
Yeah.
time. Looking forward to next game. I think lines, right? That's basically what we got to touch here. Actually, before that, Tampa Bay injuries we talked about. Chernak out, Iceman out, Hedman game time decision.
Maybe.
Jeannot game time decision.
So here's what I'll say to that. It sounds like I figured that I don't think Tanner Jeannot is, even 90%, probably not even 80%, but if there was something that was going to happen, like I saw Iceman go down, and I was like, okay, automatically next game Jeannot's coming in for at least one game. If he gets, if he aggravates something, that's unfortunate, but you have him there. There's your fallback option. And also, Victor Hedman is going to play. I think regardless, it says game time decision, dude. The guy is playing. Mark my words down right now. If he doesn't play, it will. I don't even know. Did we get confirmation of what happened? I didn't see
No,
anything.
I don't think so, and I don't think we will.
It was maybe lingering
right?
from before.
Maybe they
So
won't show their cards soon.
I will go as far as to say that if he's out the next game, it's something serious. He is to me like what Patrice Bergeron is, who's out tonight, right? Like that's
exactly. So I was gonna say, like,
Boston Bruins.
ironically,
That guy. There was a long stretch there. He punctured
lung in the cup final. That's the
but
one
he was
I
still
always
playing,
remember.
right? Like the guy's a machine, right? That is to me what Victor Hedman is. Like the guy's a machine. If has the opportunity to play, he's gonna play. So that's what I'll say on that. So
Yeah.
expect Victor Hedman back in the lineup. Whether that's at 50% or 90, I don't know. We'll see.
Okay. I think we're agreement on Samsonov's going to start. The defense, I don't really think we're going to make a pairing change yet because I don't really think we know what exactly works and doesn't. Like I think it's just you try it again and see if you get better results. Comes down to the forwards. Bunting's out. Nyes is in. We want a first line of Yarn Croak, Matthews, Marner, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and I think this is here where we might get some more opinion. O'Reilly as the 3C, or do you keep that second line? Because I did really like that second line last game, specifically at 5-on-5, because I didn't like
too.
Right? I didn't like much at 5-on-5. And Keefe has said he is not committing to any changes as of yet, despite us seeing lines in practice. He even said he might go 11-7. I think 11-7 is bullcrap. We're not going to see that. But I don't think he's decided if he wants to go O'Reilly 3C or
I think it's too early for 11-7. I think maybe if you see it's game 3, if anything. Maybe away from home. They'll look at 11-7, you know, where you're able to, you know, maybe shelter, you know, just play a little bit more stingy defense. My
idea was Nyes on the second line because you could have that as a bona fide scoring line.
So that's what I was going to say. I
and
really
like committed checking line.
I think that line of O'Reilly, Tavares, and Nylander were hands down the best line of the
I don't want to go away from it. I really don't, to be honest. Man.
But I think the one problem is, and it's not a problem of that line. I think it's a problem of the lines below. Do you want to spread out the goodness, the enrichment of Ryan O'Reilly to that third line who kind of got, you know, kicked in?
No, it was bad. It was bad.
Yeah.
I think Yarn Croak, we've just decided he's a top 6 guy, not necessarily because he's too good for the bottom 6, but because he only shows us good stuff in the top 6.
Yeah,
right?
Listen, he's
not even a slight to him. Like some players are just like that. He's a complimentary guy to good players.
He's a very good complimentary guy. I feel like asking him to kind of drive a line on the third line was probably a bit too much. I think that's there's guys like that 100%. And there's a reason why, you know, Yarn Croak only makes like, you know, I would like a lower number compared to a guy like Nylander, who will probably next offseason get, you know, get a big jump in his
all the money.
Yeah, he will get a lot of money, right? He's gonna get raised, right? Because that guy drives the line. So
I think the option is if you want to put O'Reilly 3C, you're gonna end up putting Kerfoot second line, which playoff Kerfoot isn't necessarily the worst.
I thought he had a good game, actually.
Yeah,
I didn't think he played too bad.
No, but I saw speed and I saw intensity and I saw him willing to shoot the puck more often than he does in the regular season, where he doesn't shoot the puck. Then he would go Nyes, O'Reilly, and Chari. I think is what the third line would be.
I think so. And then you probably keep Cam, Aston Reese, and Lafferty. I think by the end of the game,
those are your designated fourth line guys, no matter what, right?
They started off pretty on a wrong foot. I would say as the game kind of grew, they started to grow as well, which was, I would say, some signs of positivity. On the I was gonna mention another thing now, and it slipped my mind. You know, it probably wasn't that important, honestly. So, whatever.
I think we covered it all, man. I think we went real in depth. I think we got some good analysis.
Some would say maybe
a
little bit too in depth, but I don't think it's never too in depth.
Never enough.
There is never enough, and there really isn't never enough with this team. Like, this team is literally the gift that keeps on giving. As long as the Maple Leafs are around, there's always content. It's actually like it's crazy.
I listened to like 4 podcasts yesterday in the lead up to the game. Another 4 podcasts today. Like, keep it coming, boys.
If I didn't have to work today, Cristian, I would be in the exact same boat as you. I got all of my content short form on TikTok. That's where I was getting mine.
Fair enough.
Mentioning TikToks, I guess I think we could start wrapping this up. I will try to do my best Brian Wong impression. So you know, Hockey Night in Canada on Fubo TV in Canada. So please click the link in our comment section for that. You could also, you know, Fubo's in the States as well. If you know, they've got a whole host of things. I believe they offer the MLB network. So if you want to watch any MLB games, go to Fubo.
Some Shohei content.
Oh man, that guy's so sick. I love that guy so much. I hope he leaves the Angels. As an aside, Send that guy to the Dodgers. For all I care, send him nowhere near Anaheim. I'm sorry,
I'm gonna put
fans.
Otani on this jersey, okay?
Yeah. So if you guys want to get your, reverse retros, I don't think they have them anymore, or your Drew House jerseys, or whatever your hockey needs, go to the NHLshop.com. Click the link in the bio for that as well. Shout out to Razor. Shout out to Razor as well. I've been posting TikToks like crazy, guys. We just hit our
They're fire, boys. They're fire.
view milestone on our latest video. So if you want to go like that, don't forget to subscribe, and comment on our YouTube account. Head to Spotify if you want. We got our podcast there. But for that, I would say today, Cristian, has been a cathartic experience with you. We'll see what tomorrow brings us. Hopefully a lot more good than bad like yesterday. So on that note, cross our fingers. Let's get out of here, dude.